What is up, everybody? Rob here with McDojo Live. Welcome to another episode of Beef of the Week, the only show that talks about fights, both past, present, future, and fantasy. My guest today has been a homie for a while. He is a legend when it comes to martial arts coaching and MMA coaching. He has coached the likes of Chuck Liddell and Glover Teixeira, who actually does have a title fight coming up. My guest today, John Hackleman. What up, brother? How's it going?
Hey, how you doing? I'm great. Life is good. Life is good,
man.
Living the dream. That's what people say. Life is good or life is great. Living the dream. They say all that, but for me, it's I know what they're talking about because I honestly feel that, like, with all my heart. No, like, hey, yeah, rah rah. I'm Richard Simmons, but life is actually better than I ever thought it would be. So
that's awesome, man. Yeah, man. You've always been nothing but cool to me, dude. Like, over the years, you've always been very approachable. If ever I've reached out for a favor or whatever, you have done nothing but accommodate and have always been super cool. Honestly, probably one of my favorite people in the martial arts industry. You remind me a lot of people who have been in the industry for a long enough time to not hold back on what they say, to not give a fuck what other people think about them, and to speak your mind. And I respect the hell out of that.
Well, thanks. I wish, thanks. I wish everyone did. But then who cares? I mean, seriously. I used to, no, you know what? I honestly never used to care. Like, I'm like the old guy now who just says whatever. Like, you look ugly today. I'm like that old guy, hey, you got holes in your pants. Why are there so many holes in your pants? It's so old. It's so tiring that I say that to every girl that has a ripped jeans thing. But I'm sure they just look at me, shaking their head going, oh, here's that fucking old guy again with his stupid jokes. But I'm all right with it.
Yeah, man. I had a great time, by the way. You were kind enough to give us some time when we were filming our documentary when we went out there to California, which was awesome. Had a great interview. A lot of gold came out of that interview, not just because you're a naturally funny dude and had a lot of really funny jokes and stuff like that, but also some really insightful information into the martial arts. I mean, you had the opportunity to start in more traditional arts and kind of be one of the people to kind of pave the way for MMA fighters and coaches. It's pretty cool, man. You were able to bridge that gap. Not too many people could say that they have.
Yeah, and I'm here's another overused word again, but I'm blessed. Sorry. But I have been, blessed and lucky, and I made good choices, and I get to train martial arts when I was really young, and then luck had it where I just happened to walk into probably the baddest dude ever teaching martial arts. And then I just so happened to fall upon the Army boxing team. And, then all of a sudden I get out and start training with Benny Jet Urquidez, and it just kind of fell into place. And then, became a nurse, and I don't know, just everything fell into place because of luck and good choices. So I'll take a little bit of the credit, but the majority of it is that, walked into Chuck's, where he was training, and we happened to have a little mock fight, and then now Chuck's training with me, and now I have Chuck Liddell, and I'm getting on a private plane to go to Japan, and things just happened. And I look back, I go, how did that happen? But they did. So now I'm here, right here on this show.
Which is awesome, man. And I appreciate you for that. I know we had talked a little bit about how the show works before, and I kind of changed the format just a little bit because I thought that you would probably be somebody to do this format really well, which was normally what we do is we do a past beef, like people who have had beef in the past. Then we do a fantasy fight, like a hypothetical, like what if Sonic versus Mario fought each other? And then we do an actual fight that's coming up, and then we analyze that. What I decided to do this time was I actually am going to put you versus 3 people, and we're going to talk about hypothetically if you guys ever scrapped or whatever, how that would go. Now, obviously, this is very tongue-in-cheek. We're not really going after these people or whatever, but it's just a fun hypothetical conversation. So I want to pull up the tail of the tape for this very first one. So let's go ahead and pull up the tail of the tape. And I find this one quite amusing to me because you actually do have a story about this. So first one, let's say John Hackleman, he's 61 years old. He's 5'11", 210 pounds of pure MMA muscle. Note, he's trained Chuck Liddell and Glover Teixeira versus Frank Dux. He's 65 years old. He's 5'9". Again, Frank Dux stats, I'm just kind of winging. He might not be 5'9". I'm just going with it. So he's around 5'9". He's around 205 pounds. And one of his claims is that he knocked out over 56 people in a single Kumite tournament. Let's talk about it. You told me one time you had a story about Frank Dux, and you told me, but it was kind of in private. I was just hoping that maybe you can tell everybody what the story was, so that way they kind of know that you actually did have a little history with Frank Dux.
Yeah, he had a school in the Valley, San Fernando Valley, the real Valley, not Fresno or whatever people think is the Valley. The real Valley is San Fernando, like Woodland Hills, Calabasas, Canoga Park, Sherman Oaks. But anyway, all right. So I was teaching at a school, and I was working night shift. I think I was working as a registered nurse, and I was teaching at Cecil People's Gym on a couple nights a week, and Cecil called me one morning, just like really frantic. It was like 8 a.m. on a Saturday or Sunday, and he was at his dojo, and I guess there was flyers all over his dojo saying, "Come train at a real gym, come train at Frank Dux gym," and it was like a dojo war. It was kind of like an old, like the old kung fu movie, one kung fu place versus the other. It was kind of like that, and so Cecil calls me and goes, "Oh, Frank Dux left all these, these flyers on my window. We got to get even." So he says, "I think he's teaching over at his gym right now. Come down here." So I was like, "Okay." So I get in my car, go drive into Cecil's gym, and the whole way out there, I was expecting that we're going to go over to Frank Dux' place. I know this guy from the movies, but I don't know how much of his stuff is real, how much of it is fake. Yeah. And I assume that some of his guys will be there. It's going to be like a brawl. So I get to Cecil's gym and get in his car, and it was me and him, and might have been one other guy. I don't remember. Might have been Skiwi or something. Skiwi is one of his top students. So anyway, we get in the car. We drive over to Frank Dux' place, which was like a 5 or 10 minute drive. And sure enough, there's people in their dojo. So we get out there, and we pulled off. First of all, we pulled off all the flyers. So we had the flyers in our hand, and we walked into his dojo. And there's some kid teaching a class. When I say kid, he's probably like in his early 20s or something. And he's teaching a class, and we walk in and we go, "Hey, where's Frank Dux?" It was like a movie. It was so funny. And he's like, "I'm sorry, sir. He's not here right now. I'm here alone teaching a class." And then we like ripped up all the flyers. He goes, "Hey, put these flyers on, our dojo, and tell him if he ever does that again, we're going to come back and kick his butt." And we walked out of the dojo like it was like a Bruce Lee movie, the older ones,
where he takes the sign,
and that was it.
Racks it on his leg and throws it on the dojo floor.
I wish there was more to it. I wish he was there, because I think there would have been a lot more to the story, but he wasn't. So that was it. That was the entire story.
No, but I find that interesting, because I actually, when I started when I was 12. And I started because I was picked on and beat up in school. And so I was already like a very I was pretty much a chihuahua in terms of how I treated most everything. Just terrified, timid, shaking all the time. Like I was nervous. I was pretty much just abused while I was in school. And so after getting jumped one time, not a lot of people really know that story, but I got jumped by a group of like 6 people. They stabbed me with pencils. They stepped on my head. They really beat the hell out of me. I was laying there bleeding. and a friend who was late to the class like ran up to like pick me up and help me up. And as he picked me up and walked me to the nurse's office, he handed me a card, and the card was for karate. And he literally said, "You need this." And so I was like, "I do." And then, my mom wouldn't let me do anything, wouldn't let me do any physical sport because I was born with a cleft palate. She was worried that I'd get hit in the face and have to redo surgeries, which is understandable. She was safety first kind of thing. I get that. But then after I started martial arts, that was the one thing I'm guaranteed to get punched in the face doing. She was like, "Yeah, sure, do that." But I appreciate the fact that she did that. She gave it to me as a present, birthday present. She bought an entire year and gave it to me as a birthday present. And it's the best gift I've ever had. Yeah, best gift I've ever had. And
yeah, isn't that when you look back? And it was the best gift. And then, it was a choice that you made.
Yeah.
Just like I went down, found it in the yellow pages, and I took the bus down there and just walked in the dojo all by myself. And that was the best gift, best choice I ever made to myself. Cause
yeah, it leads you down some weird paths, things that you never thought you would do.
Oh, God, no.
But the reason I brought it up is because the first class I ever went to, I'm sorry, second class I ever went to, not the first, because I remember my first day very vividly. But the second time that I went in and I sat down and I noticed like the dojo floor was empty. And the time I had went before, there were all kinds of people warming up and talking, and it was like a busy spot. But this time it was empty. And then all of a sudden, like people started coming in, but like everybody was silent. I was like, that's weird. Nobody's like friendly today. And people just start wrapping their hands. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then the instructor comes in. He goes, "Hey, I'm sorry, there's no class today. We have a private event going on. You're more than welcome to stay and watch, or you can go." And I had gotten dropped off by my mom. So I was like, I'll just watch. Like I'm still new and fresh to all this. My second day. So I wanted to see what was going to happen. And it was a dojo thing. It was like a dojo war kind of thing. Apparently my instructor at the time and another instructor at a local karate tournament had gotten into some words. And my instructor said, "Why don't you bring your people over and we'll see how it is?" And that was what happened that night. They like all went in there and they just beat the living stew out of each other. So like second class ever, I got to see like a dojo storm in person. It's crazy.
Yeah. They actually happened. And I had another one happen when I was with Cecil, and that was in LA. And then when I moved up to Central Coast, it happened to a dojo we had down the street once called J&R Kempo. And then it happened. That's how I met Chuck. It was actually a very, a typical quintessential dojo war. And then I happened to go against Chuck, and next thing I know, that started everything. If that didn't happen, I don't know if I ever would have met Chuck. I might have, but that's what cemented everything with Chuck that night. He started training with me the next day. So,
it's amazing how much respect you can have for another human being once you like put gloves on. Because I think that you have this moment of truth between each other. Like, it's really hard to lie when you're hitting each other. Like when you're fighting another human being, it's very difficult to lie. Like truth comes out, Did you train? Did you not train? Same thing with like verbal arguments. People hold on to the truth and they wait until it's time to argue with you. You remember when you did that and you remember this. It's like, well, bitch, why didn't you say that shit earlier? Like, you could have told me like when it happened. Could have been honest, but you saved it. Like, that's not good communication.
That's how my wife is. Oh my God.
I like how you
women are the worst at that. Oh my God. But yeah, I know what you mean. But so that's that. So Frank Dux, to me, I never really got to know him in the, after that. But I mean, to me, if there was a fight with Frank Dux, he would be doing some of his stuff that he liked to, do, and I would hit him with a left hook. He would be done.
How did I know it was going to be a left hook? Maybe a good guess, huh?
It would be a left hook.
The problem with Frank Dux is like, I think that he probably is just a habitual liar. Those are my words, not yours. So Frank Dux, if you ever get pissed off, don't get pissed off at John Hackleman. I said it. But he seems to be a habitual liar. He just can't help himself but do it, almost like it's a condition. And so I want to show you this clip, and I found this clip fascinating. So let's go ahead and watch this real fast. We can roll this clip, and it's of Frank Dux answering basic questions about his life.
You hold a tug-of-war record where you stood on one leg and 66 people couldn't pull you down.
True.
You used to use a double to answer media interviews for you while you were clandestinely abroad. I hope I'm speaking to the real Frank Dux right now. So you were once conferred the rank of a Soviet army captain.
True.
To remain an active undercover off-the-books employee of the CIA.
That's a very good question.
You were the first and maybe only Westerner to ever train and advise the Verkut, the top-secret elite anti-terrorist unit of the Ukraine.
True.
Your military records were rewritten to eradicate certain events and things in your records.
True.
So you once threatened to throw Jean-Claude Van Damme off a building top.
True.
You once sold a ceremonial sword that you won in the Kumite to attempt to buy the freedom of enslaved children.
That's true.
So this dude says that he won a sword, a ceremonial, a sacred sword from the Kumite, a tournament that doesn't exist. And then he took that sword and he was on the high seas and traded it for children who were been captured. Like, first of all, delusion is one thing, but just perpetuate this bullshit is just crushes me. Because what I found looking into Frank Dux is like when he started martial arts, he was a legitimate martial artist. It seemed like he ran a martial arts school. That was his life. That's what he did. And then he was a dreamer, which there's nothing wrong with that. And then he decided, you know, he writes Bloodsport. But then rather than just making Bloodsport this beautiful fantasy thing that, you know, everybody's seen Bloodsport, right? But rather than making it this beautiful fantasy of a story, he wants it to be real. And that's what crushes me. It's like, dude, people, you could have been looked up to and not been labeled a fraud had you at least just had the wherewithal to say, you know what, this is just a fantasy story. It's a good story. People will like it. But he couldn't stop there. It's amazing.
Okay. You can look at that side. The cup might be half empty. What if that's real? I mean, the guy, what if he was the Kumite with the sword and he released the sex slaves from the sex trafficking and shit? I don't know. I wasn't there. He might be telling the truth. Because you're coming at it from your position, the McDojo, everybody's the McDojo guy. This guy could be like, he might have saved how many sex slaves? I don't know. What if there are kids, for God's sake?
Well, I think somebody did.
You're very skeptical. You're too skeptical.
I am a skeptic by trade. But one thing that I've noticed is somebody actually did the math for a single elimination tournament for his claims and how many people he says he fought in a single tournament. Technically, on a single elimination tournament, the number of people he would have fought, he would still be fighting today. So, like, and this is supposed to be a secret tournament. Like, how many of these motherfuckers? You knocked out, 100 people, 65 people? How many was it? He knocked out a lot. But he's claiming he knocked out all these people in a single tournament. Like, well, I thought it was a secret tournament. Like, how many people were invited, man? Like, you got like 1,000 people at this secret tournament? Get out of here. It's bullshit.
I think, because sometimes I watch your stuff and I'm like, okay, you know, because you come at it, you have to be that guy that's like, you're the guy that's skeptical, and we need guys like you. Checks and balances.
Well, hopefully I'm helping with the checks and balances. I'm not saying I'm always right. Shit, I will give you credit. Yes, I was not there because during the time in which he claims to have done these things, I wasn't born. So he was like in his 20s or 30s when he made these claims. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm sitting here looking at this and I don't have to sell horse manure to know what shit looks like. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But
Frank, is he still alive?
Yeah, he's still kicking.
I know I've met him, but I would not ever be able to recognize him if I ran into him at a super show or a martial arts anywhere. I would never recognize him.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and give you the credit and just say I'm pretty sure you would beat Frank Dux. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yes, my life is complete. Oh my God! I'm going to brag. That's bragging rights. I'm going to use that as bragging rights.
Well, we're just getting warmed up. Let's go ahead and go to the next one.
Let's go.
Let's pull up the tail of the tape. Because what I've done is I've created like almost like a video game scenario where you have to keep going through stages. So the next guy you would have to face here is Ashida Kim. He is currently 70. You know this guy?
No.
No, you're about to learn today. Ashida Kim's 73 years old. I think he's probably around 5'6". He's a fairly short guy. And because of the records that he's shown before, I think he's probably around 135 or 145 pounds. He claims that he could dodge bullets and is a ninja. So let's talk about the dodge bullets thing. So the dodge bullets thing, I thought wasn't a real claim. I thought that he was just doing like a parody, and I thought like maybe he was doing it because he thought it was funny. We interviewed him for our documentary. And during that interview, he not only says that he could dodge bullets, but he says he has dodged bullets before. So,
and I am, yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think? Can you beat a guy who could dodge bullets?
You know what? I know who I am. I know what I've done. I'm very proud of a lot of stuff I've done, but I'm only friggin' human. And to be honest, I'm gonna go say it right now. If he can dodge bullets, I think he'd be able to outspeed me. So I'm gonna have to say I'm gonna bow down to this. I might actually do a verbal or a like tapping out or something. Because if I start trying to hit him, kick him in the head, he's that fast. I think he's got that one. So I'm gonna I have to admit when I think I've been beat. So the bullet dodging guy, I don't see myself beating the bullet dodger.
Well, let's look at his technique before we make assumptions here. Let's at least look at his technique, see what he's got. So let's go ahead and see this man's speed. Let's go ahead and play this next video. This man, let's see how quick he is on his feet.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness, without doubt, the most savage and terrifying self-defense form known to man. It is composed of 27 of the deadliest poison hand techniques ever devised, each one of which is guaranteed to kill, cripple, or maim any attacker. It is not for the squeamish nor the weak at heart.
So, I mean, obviously a trained killer, but what are your thoughts?
I'm perplexed, and there's two. I'm coming at this with two different angles. Number one, oh shit, I don't. You know, you wouldn't even wake up from a beating like that. Okay, but to be honest, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but his form and his power looked a little bit like my sister. And no, he had kind of it was kind of goofy but feminine at the same time. He had a very goofy and feminine techniques. But I don't know, man. The dodging the bullet thing, I can't get past that, so I don't know where I would go with that, because I don't know what kind of attack I could wage against someone that can dodge bullets. But just watching that, taking that out of the equation, and watching the way he just he probably killed that person is probably dead right now. I hope they have the video. I hope the video has been helpful in catching him. But a killer like that, it was weird though, because some guys, it's like Roy Nelson. Roy Nelson, you look at his belly and you never think that guy's one of the best conditioned fighters ever. He never got tired. He would go first round. He'd be the same in the first round and the fifth round. He's that good a shape. But you never believe it looking at him, right? But then this guy, the way he had kind of feminine movements and kind of like my mom or my sister. I don't know which. He had a little bit of my mom in there and a little bit of my sister. But he was a very feminine man. But I don't know. The dodging the bullet, I can't get over that. So I'm gonna have to give him that one.
I will say another thing that he has under his belt as well is he also knows the Damak. And so very much like Frank Dux, he is aware of the death touch. So you got to be careful with the demock.
See, with Frank Dux, I'm not as worried because he doesn't have that dodging the bullet speed. So even though he had the demock, if my left hook would land first, then that would persevere. But this guy, if he has that much speed and dodging the bullet, he might dodge my left hook one or two, and then he might get to me with the demock, and we know what happens then. You end up in a nursing home.
You literally poo yourself, and then you're invalid for the rest of your life because he's.
So I'm gonna, this one I might have to bow down to the bullet dodger.
All right, well there you go. Let's go ahead and pull up the next tale of the tape, the final boss here, if you will. Let's go ahead and pull up the tale of the tape. The king honcho himself, Mr. George Dillman. George Dillman, I don't know if you're familiar. 78 years old now, around 5'8". I'm not exactly sure. Again, the numbers don't really care. He's got to weigh at least 265 right now. He is definitely a rotund man, if you will. And he can knock people out with his mind. So let's go ahead and break that down. What are your thoughts?
When you say mind, so he has some kind of mind control?
Yeah,
because my wife has that. My wife has
the power
that.
of chi. So he can harness his chi and project it and knock people unconscious. It's a superpower he seems to have. He's also a pressure point expert, even though he's not a licensed acupuncturist, which is always funny to me. But he's a pressure point expert and apparently could hit you in certain places to make you paralyzed or to kill you or to stop your heart. He's that guy.
That people might laugh about that, but I take that death touch shit serious because I don't want to be death touched. And I know that it could, I take it serious. When you say you put those two words together, death touch, in other words, he can just touch me and I'll be dead. I would start off with a whole different strategy. I think I would be a little more on the defensive. So that might take away some of my skills of coming in and brawling and trying to knock him out with a left hook so it might change my strategy a little bit because I don't want to get death touched. And I've thought about that a lot throughout my life. And that's one thing that, the dodging the bullet. Okay. He's dodging a bullet, but he's not hurting me. And then the other guy, the Dillman guy, the Frank Dux guy, he's just too slow. So I would be able to capitalize on his lack of speed. But this guy, the death touch guy, I've always had that in the back of my mind that what am I going to do? Because I don't want to get death touched. I never have. Ever since I was a kid, I knew that one thing I knew growing up, no matter what I do in my martial arts career, I want to stay away from the death touch.
I got you. Well, James Randi. Do you remember James Randi?
No.
The Amazing Randy was what he went by. He used to do this thing, and he actually has a foundation. And it's called the James Randi Foundation. And what they do is they are all about skepticism, to be honest. That's what they do. They try to make sure that anything that isn't true or people who are being cons or frauds get called out. And so James Randi had this thing. And if I remember correctly off the top of my head, it was the $1 Million Challenge. And what he did was he had a check and he wrote it out for $1 million. He actually did have the money. And he put it in his pocket, and he always had it with him. And anyone who could ever prove any type of supernatural abilities or, telekinesis, psychic abilities, like George Dillman says he can knock people out with the chi, any of that stuff, right? He would pay them $1 million on the spot. He died 2 years ago, rest in peace. He died 2 years ago with that check still in his pocket. He never paid it out. So to me, I would imagine that if any of that stuff did actually exist, that would be easy money for anyone to prove. But unfortunately, no one has been able to. So I just think that somebody like a Dillman, and when I think about like pressure point, death touch, garbage, right? It's like, do it to me. See, we're different. So you say you don't want none of that. I say I want all the smoke.
You're braver than I am. You're braver than I am. I'll admit that right now. And I'll admit it. I don't want to be death touched by someone, but I mean, I don't know, man. Just in the back of my mind, it's like, do you get the vaccination? Do you not get it? that kind of stuff's in the back of your mind all the time.
Yeah, well, it's that kind of stuff is tricky, right? Because again, you're dealing with information and misinformation all the time, jumbled in between. You have to sort through it, unfortunately, to figure it out. There are two sides of the aisle when it comes to that, but also when it comes to medical shit, like when it comes to the pressure point stuff, the no touch knockout stuff, right? You have all these people, like that's all I post all the time. There's all these people who truly believe that they can knock people out with their mind or use the force or the chi to push people and pull people. Like, I think it's nonsense, but there's an entire group of people, like hundreds of thousands of people that believe it. So like, in the back of my head, I think I could be wrong. That might be a thing, I guess, but I haven't seen it.
No. I mean, I think your parodies and your, making, you're actually doing like undercover, research and you're investigating and you're keeping it light and adding levity to it and humor and stuff. So I think that's great. But, and it's hard to believe, like politically, and I'm not going to go either way politically, but whatever side you're on, you think the other side, just like you think these guys, you look at them, you just go like, how stupid can someone really be? Really? It's like sometimes you're like, they can't, it's impossible. So like in martial arts, I've always seen the guys with their hands over here. And I just like think, you seriously, you're going to fight a guy with a stance and keep your hand here? It's a joke, right? And it's not. They actually do that. Like they'll do these things where they do all these weird movements. I'll say, you actually do that for your belt testing? What does that have to do with anything? But some people really believe it, and I don't know how they use the word bunkai. Maybe your guys use the word bunkai, right? So bunkai, when you ask a kata guy about bunkai, they go, that's how you explain how this technique would actually work in the street. And then they make something real, and then they try to pretend that that's somehow they're related. And I've never understood that. And part of that could be because I'm not really that smart, or part of it might be because it's just stupid and full of shit.
Well, I think that bunkai is the ultimate lie to me. Bunkai is like chi. Because if you go to China, chi is in almost everything. Chi is like the clouds, and it's the trees, and it's everything, right? And a lot of words have the word chi at the end of them because it's all encompassing word. But you can make that anything because it doesn't really mean anything. That's the beauty of a word like that. It's a fantasy word. You can literally put any definition in, and people will be like, oh, well, that makes complete sense because it's bullshit. But it's the same thing with bunkai, right? When you look at, by the way, for anybody who is watching or listening and doesn't know what we're talking about, bunkai means application of technique. So you'll typically, and obviously somebody's going to be, it doesn't mean exactly application. Man, feel free to kiss my ass. This is just the in general term, the layman term. So it's how to apply technique in a kata. So if you're doing, like, let's say, what some people would consider an up block, right? Some people will say it's an up block, and then someone else will say, no, it's me swimming in to go ahead and get a arm drag.
Whizzer,
right?
A whizzer.
Yeah.
You're getting a whizzer.
So, like, that's the beauty of bunkai, is like you can make anything up for any movement because body mechanics in the air is still just body mechanics. So while one person would say this is a jab, another might say it's an eye gouge, another might say I'm reaching out to grab something. Same thing with the arm chamber. The arm chamber, I've seen a lot of people say the definition of why they pull their hand back is because they're grabbing, like grabbing a sleeve or grabbing a collar. But the thing is like, that's your interpretation of that movement, and it can be that thing, but is that really what it was meant for? We don't know. That's the fantasy.
Right. And it's also, I can see, so if I grab someone and I'm trying to practice grabbing, I'm going to grab them and then grab them, come back. But to walk around like this and fight with it chambered here, are you grabbing him the whole time and he's like over here, but you're hitting over here? It's like, so it doesn't make any sense. But then they start using, you say bunkai translates to application. I've heard more where they say bunkai. This makes it even more it makes it a bigger space where they can lie more or make up stuff. They say it means philosophy, you know. So it's like the application of the philosophy. So you do it this way because you're pulling, but reality, you're thinking, you know. It's a word that's just but you just had a really good one that should be a meme that I'll put up anytime. Bunkai is the ultimate lie. That's a good one.
Well, because it is a lie.
I know.
She is also a lie. But the thing about those two things is they're real enough because they're words. And so because the words exist in the ether, people think that they're a real thing. But another word that exists in the ether is fugazi, right? You know, it's a fantasy. It's a made up. So like just because a word exists over it doesn't mean that it isn't bullshit, you know? And so I don't know. It's always fascinating to me when people try to justify certain things like that. And the three gentlemen that we talked about today on the show are all people who are pretty notorious hucksters and shysters in the industry.
Bunkayers.
Bunkayers. Oh,
they're bunkayers.
That's such a good word.
It's a great word.
Oh,
bunkai. So bunkai is the ultimate lie.
It is.
It's amazing. And you know, it's martial arts is such a real sport, and now they call it MMA, and that's the sport. It's the most real sport there is. But martial arts is also a way of life, and then they like to play with the word arts. They go, well, it says martial arts, so we're going to do some drawing, and we're going to make some statues, and we're going to. So they use that, you know, that kind of bunkai in the word art too. It's like, but it's martial art. So it's like, you can just change it, warlike art or deadly art or fighting art. And the word art just means the application, you know, of the first word, right? Because art is the second word. So if I said, running arts, you know, everything would have to do with running. Or swimming arts, but they say martial arts. So everything they do should be warlike and not bunkai like. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's go and go to the presser, my friend. So let's go and wrap up for the day. I really appreciate the conversation. I always enjoy us being able to sit down and talk. You know, and the beauty is like we don't always agree on everything. So that's something I think that is important in the world today is open discourse. Like just because two people don't necessarily agree on everything doesn't mean that they need to hate each other. And like we agree on a lot of things. I think we agree way more on things than we disagree. But when we disagree, it's never like, you know, at each other's throats like the world seems to be today. Like open discourse is so important. And that's why I like shows like this, because we can just talk about anything. And I know that if we disagree about something, it's still going to be something that's beneficial to hear and to speak about. So I appreciate you taking the time, man. Let people know what you have going on and where they can find you and where they can follow you.
You can find me Pit_Master. That's my Instagram's my main go-to, but then from there I go like the Reels, the TikTok, the Facebook, the Twitter. But my main one is Instagram. And then we got classes galore, busier than we've ever been because of all the craziness going on out there. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows they have to train and get in top shape. And then as my hobby, you know, I train some fighters here and there. And I just so happen to have a guy going for this is the second guy I've had going for the UFC light heavyweight title, Glover Teixeira. And that's going to be October 30th in Dubai, and that should be fantastic. And other than that, man, that's all I do is I teach guys how to defend themselves so they don't become bully targets and they don't become or they get out of becoming beta males. I mean, I think that's one of my main. If I was to put it in one sentence, I think I want everybody to go from beta to alpha. I think that says it all. There's so many other things that you got to add to that. But I think overall, that's my biggest goal is turning everybody from betas to alphas because the world will be a much better place.
And I actually, funny enough, that actually has a lot to do with your martial moment. So as we kind of leave the show, that's a great note right there. Let's go ahead and play your martial moment. And this is This is something that I thought was hilarious that I found that you did, but pretty true.
Hey, man. What's up, idiot?
Hey, what are you talking about? Ah, okay. Maybe we could spend a little time. What do you think about that?
I'm not really feeling it today. Maybe another time?
If you do that with your chin up, you will get knocked out. Oh my God. And you won't get laid when you get home.